episode of 10 Minute Horror. Tonight, we're going to be following Jane into a new series of scares, and hopefully, she'll make it out okay. So kick back and get comfortable. This is Never Hold Your Breath, Part 4, The Tunnels. I kicked inwards quickly. Okay, now was the last push to find him. I swam deeper, realizing I was now in a tunnel about 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide. I got to the light, and it was Clay's torch. It had his initials carved into the butt of the handle. It was resting on the bottom of the tunnel. I picked it up and hooked it to my belt. So he'd been through here then, within the last 10 minutes. I was on the right track but was out of time. I kicked forward instinctually without thinking, pushing through the tunnel. It looked like it came to an opening ahead. I'd just get there and turn back, I thought. Then my torch caught something. It was sticking up from a crevice at the bottom of the tunnel. One of Clay's flippers. It looked chewed up. I floated forward, coming to the end of the tunnel and out into a large caving system. Of course it was caves, but this was unlike anything I'd heard of or seen. It looked like a honeycomb on every wall, dozens and dozens of dark, black tunnels to go into or come out of. My safety alarm was starting to ring. I had to get out. I had to go. I'm sorry, Clay, I'll come back. Whether you're alive or dead, I'll come back down, I promise. I kicked back through the tunnel, turning on Clay's torch and leaving it at the entrance, pointing it out into the blue hole. It shone out of the tunnel, which would make it easier to find on the way back. I found it last time because of the glow stick, but that was gone now. It was slower going up than coming down, which made the ringing of the alarm in my earpiece that much more annoying. The ringing was replaced by popping as I ascended up into the town, but the water didn't feel warmer. I swam straight up, deciding to push through the cloud and come out the other side. Once there, I wouldn't have time for a safety stop. All I could do was swim at the depth of one, towards the cottage, and hoped that that would do enough to ward off the bends. Either way, time wouldn't allow anything else. I'm gonna have to run into the house, grab Mom and Dad's air tanks and masks, and rush back. Why both? I keep thinking maybe he'll still somehow be alive. If I just rejected the idea he was dead, maybe that'd pause it for just a few minutes longer. Maybe we were living in between seconds, and there was still time. It made no sense, but sometimes hope doesn't. It was all a guess which direction to go in, as I didn't want to hit the surface too soon, even though my air gauge was reading just under 1% left. Once it hit 0%, I'd dip up and take whatever came. And then I saw that familiar slope of shore leading up to the cottage. There was sand under me again, I guess the right way. I pulled my head above water just as my tank ran dry. Air never tasted so good, but so fleeting. I kicked my way up to the shore, shedding my tank and mask on the beach. Behind me, dark storm clouds were moving in quickly. I rushed inside, pulling aside the gear from Mom and Dad's stash I needed. I got the tanks and masks, 2 flares, a pocket first aid kit. I saw an inflatable life raft, the kind that inflates itself from 0 to 100 in under 2 seconds flat, but packaged down into something the size of a windbreaker. Small enough to carry and what the hell, maybe it would help. I grabbed a line. I figured I could attach it to the tunnel entrance so I could find my way out. I didn't like the idea of glow sticks anymore. Then I saw my dad's drop point 6-inch blade. The handle made it almost a foot long. I grabbed the gear and marched back out to come face to face with the storm's arrival. Rain was starting to hit the deck. The lake was already dancing with raindrops. Lightning spiderwebbed across the sky, followed by a thunderclap that shook the earth. I suited up with my mom's tank and mask and, carrying my dad's gear for Clay, I rushed in. As the water rose above my knees, I gripped the handle of my dad's drop point. It wasn't just the handle now, though. I quickly duct taped a flare to it with the burning end pointed to the butt. I had a terrible feeling I was going to need them both. This wasn't just about bringing Clay back. The blue hole was natural, but the crack in the side of it, the tunnel to the cave, all those tunnels in that catacomb, they were made by something, or some things. Clay's mangled fin only supported that theory. There was something else down there. I'd like to wake up now, in bed, come downstairs and find Mom, Dad, and Clay eating breakfast. What I'd give for that. But instead, I'm about to launch back over the drop-off and down through the cloud. I decided I was going to stay up high, swim over the town until I was directly over the blue hole, and then drop straight down. I was keeping an eagle's eye view of everything this time. Fear was coursing through my bones. The only thing fighting it was hope, and that brought back something else my first scuba instructor told me. No one's dead until they're dead. For whatever reason, something deep in my chest told me Clay was the former. There were all kinds of air pockets and above-water caves in those systems that he could be in, but it was more than him being an annoyingly resilient guy. Something was pulling me towards him. I pulled through the cloud and there was the town. It wasn't shining emerald green anymore. The overhead storm took the shimmer away. The white marine Christmas snow was replaced by something that resembled ash. The town looked dead. I stuck just below the cloud as I swam, the lightning from the sky far above magnified down here, like the night battlefield of an old war. The cloud seemed to envelop the whole valley, like a ceiling. a buffer. I stared down at the rooftops of homes and buildings and stores. Seeing the water damage accumulate the closer I got to the end of the valley made all the sense now. It was clear the town was flooded for a reason. There were just so many personal possessions in that first house to make me think they evacuated everyone voluntarily. An infection, maybe. But what about the priest in the church? Now thinking of the church, it was getting closer, which meant I looked down. I was floating directly over the blue hole. I couldn't make out any movement around me. The town seemed as quiet and dead as ever. Then the town was gone, and I was in the blue hole. It felt like I was being swallowed whole by a giant sea creature. As I dropped, I searched for the light I left at the entrance to the tunnel. Shit, I couldn't see even a hint of light down below anywhere. What if a current turned it over or caused it to fall out? Then I saw it, 10 feet below me, the large crack in the wall, large enough to fit through, Clay's torch blazing out at me. I took a moment trying to mentally prepare for whatever was down here, whatever I'd find, whatever would find me. I conjured up the worst underwater creatures I could imagine, anything that could make whatever actually arrived less frightening. I hooked my dad's pack to mine with a carabiner, then attached my line to a crevice in the broken rock at the entrance. I tested the line, and it was a stronghold, good to go. I held my torch in one hand and my dad's deep point flare in the other, and its safety loop around my wrist. I was ready. I kicked forward and entered the tunnel, passing over Clay's torch. I adjusted it, pointing it back into the tunnel to make it easier to find, if my line was to be cut. The tunnel remained quiet and dark, unaware of the storm raging overhead. Things like that didn't matter down here. Nothing mattered down here. The end of the tunnel was approaching, and I could see the honeycomb pattern ahead. I still wasn't sure what my plan was once I got to the cave and all the options. How was I going to handle this? The tunnel finally came to the opening, and I was back in the large open cavern. It really appeared to be the hub for all of these tunnels. I decided to light up my backup flare. The room sparked into a bright red cathedral. There were so many more tunnel entrances than I thought. A fearful thought hit me. One of those ones that makes sense and becomes more frightening at the same time. There were enough tunnels down here for every home in the town. That crack in the wall of the basement, the church floor, any one of these could literally go anywhere and probably splinter into a dozen other tunnels as well. I grew overwhelmed. I'm not sure what my plan was this whole time. I just knew I needed to come back. But now I'm here with 100 choices, but no decisions. I closed my eyes. What had I been thinking? No one would ever find Clay. He was lost down here, forever, and I was the idiot kid sister who showed up with band-aids. Tears welled up. For the first time through all of this, I started to cry. Adrenaline kept me going, but this moment, it all crashed back down. I cried about Clay and what I was going to say to my parents, about them and how crushed they'd be. I cried about the funeral, about our grandparents who loved him, and then I cried for me, because I didn't ask for this. Then I felt it in my chest, the magnet, the call, the void. I opened my eyes and realized I'd floated upwards in the cavern, but not just up, forwards and to the left. I was directly in front of a new tunnel entrance, floating in place, that tug in my chest pulling me here. I could see pretty deep into this new tunnel. It was dark, but there was light, a lot of light. It was a bluish green glow, and it was calling to me. That concludes Never Hold Your Breath Part 4